Welcome everybody to another, this is not authors at Google, this is astronauts at Google Talk. Today we have Commander Reid Wiseman, who's a flight engineer on Expedition 41, which launched from Kazakhstan on May 28, 2014, on board a Soyuz 39. And he spent, what, 5 months on the space station?
5.5 months.
5.5 months. So when he was aboard the space station, you can imagine he did a lot of interesting things, like repairing things, surviving in space, which is, like you're away from friends and family. You have strange friends probably up there that you're not picking yourself. Let's see. So they replaced a failed power regulator and prepped the station for a reconfiguration that will allow the station to accommodate future commercial crew vehicles inside the space station. Is that a code name for SpaceX? We'll hear about that. Anyway, so Reid was born in Baltimore, Maryland, married to the former Carol Taylor of Virginia Beach, Virginia. They have 2 daughters, and Wiseman's parents, Bill and Julie Wiseman, reside in Hunt Valley, Maryland. He graduated from Dulaney High School in Maryland, a Bachelor of Science degree in Computer and Systems Engineering. Recruiters, are there any recruiters here? From the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in New York. Masters of Science degree in Systems Engineering at Johns Hopkins University, Baltimore, Maryland. Please join me in welcoming Reid Wiseman to Google.
But just real quick, this is my second trip to Google. There was a former astronaut, Ed Liu, who worked here for a little while, and he took me on a tour a couple years ago. And wow, this place is so much bigger now. I mean, it's amazing. And so I was reflecting just while we were sitting there eating lunch at the Great Cafe. I just started to step back for a second and think about Google in my own personal life. And holy smokes, I mean, bless you. When we're on the space station, we're running Picasso with all of our photos. When I'm here, I don't even think about my search engine. It's just Google. That's where all my news comes from. That's where all my internet information comes from. When I landed in San Francisco Airport and I'm driving down here, that's where my directions come from. And my dad, he offered me his GPS when I was home so I could get around Maryland. And I'm like, Dad, come on. I got Google Maps here. I mean, I got the whole world right in my hand. So, when you take a step back and realize the work that everyone here is doing and how much you all are changing the world, it just blows me away. And so it's really a great honor for me to be here. Google's intertwined beautifully into my life, and I personally appreciate all the work that's going on here. And I get to see one of my old friends, which was totally by surprise, which is really cool. Brandon, we used to work together. So if you'll humor me, I'll talk for hopefully no more than about 25 minutes. I just want to run you through the basis of my mission, give you a little feeling for what it's like in space. It might be a bit generic for this crowd, but then if I can get some questions from people, because the way you all think is just brilliant, and I really hope I get some interesting, odd questions that I can't answer. And then we'll go to Google, we'll hit Wikipedia, and we will find the solution to these problems. So just jumping right in, I did have to show a picture of me at the dining facility this afternoon. I would throw on, I put on about 10 pounds in space, eating space food. I set the record for most weight gain up there, and it was all due to chocolate pudding cake, and you can see that started when I was about 1-year-old. That's a good point. It was just mass gain, but I'll tell you, when I landed, it was definitely weight gain. I had to buy a whole new set of pants. We did the introduction, so this is me and my family growing up. I got an older brother, Bill, who's 5 years older than me, and he got all the brains in the family, so he is just a huge thinker, and I love talking to him. He's way outside my league. And I went to RPI, Rensselaer. When I was there, I really loved computers. I loved computer networking, and I really wanted to go work at Intel. But there was something just burning in me that I also wanted to fly airplanes. And so when I left Rensselaer, I joined the Navy, and I got super lucky to fly F-14s and F-18s off of aircraft carriers. I spent about 2.5 years of my life at sea over this 12-year career in the Navy. And then I got to go to Patuxent River and do a lot of test pilot work on some of really new systems. I wasn't doing too much on new airplanes, but on new systems. And so when I look at the way you all invent, test, integrate, redesign. It's just, to me, that's the best. That's the best. When you can take hardware, look at how it works, tweak the software, and then re-go. It's just awesome. So that was my life for 12 years. And then in 2009, about 5,000 people wanted to come to NASA, and for some reason they selected this group. And I was lucky enough to be one of the 9 Americans selected in '09. It was just a whole lot of luck. I had a nice background with the military test pilot and a couple of degrees. But the reason I wanted to show you all this picture is this is the first time in our lives that we had floated. It was in the back of a C9. If any of you have ever done a zero-G flight, if you haven't and you have a little spare money, which maybe some of you do, I recommend it. It's a total, you can see from our faces, it's no fun at all. But it's great. And the reason I wanted to show this is this was the 2009 class. And I think it looks a lot like the Google campus. There's a lot of folks from different countries, a lot of different languages being spoke. We have like Serena Anand, she's a medical doctor. Mike Hopkins here is an Air Force test engineer. I know one of those in the front. And then we have a few other medical doctors. Kate Rubins, she's just barely peeking her blonde head out in the back, and she is like a bio-genius, and she was studying Ebola in the Congo when she was selected to NASA, and so they had to, fly her out of there. Super smart. So anyway, NASA's just a great, just like you guys, a great diverse collection of folks that all come together and try to do really fun things. In 2011, I was lucky enough to be assigned to a mission, and this is my primary crew that I flew with. Obviously, I'm on the right there. In the center is a great, crazy character, Max Sarayev. He's a Russian. He was a Russian Air Force pilot. So for my first 5 years in the Navy, he was the enemy. And then in the end, he's just my best friend. And he's got 2 daughters. I have 2 daughters. They all know each other really well. We teach them English. They teach us Russian. And it's just once you get below the political tensions of the U.S.-Russia relationship, when you get down to the people and you work together with these people, you realize they're just great folks. And everybody is there for the common goal, and I love that. Over here on the left is Alex Gerst. He was our resident smart guy in our crew. He is a geophysicist, a volcanologist by trade, grew up in Germany, and he flew with us with the European Space Agency. And he was like our encyclopedia of knowledge. And you cannot get anything past him. If you're off by even like a thousandth, he will correct you on everything. And so it's really fun to fly with him because he kept us sharp the whole time. Now I'll just jump into a series of about 2.5 to 3 minute video clips. I was part of the 40th and 41st expedition to the International Space Station. We've been flying to this thing since about 2000, which was amazing. And for me, I'd always dreamed of leaving our planet, and this is the day. There's me saying goodbye to my 2 daughters, which was the hardest part by far of the mission. And I was on the bus heading out to the launch pad there. We get in our suits. We walk out, and this guy hugging us is the head of the Russian Space Agency. And I loved what he said to me. He just said, hey, everything's going to be fine. We built a great rocket for you. It's going to work. It was like exactly what I needed to hear before I jumped on a bunch of fuel. And this is us climbing up the ladder. And you can see behind us just the steam coming off of this thing. It was alive sitting in there. Once they light the engines, it's about 3 hours. We've already been sitting in there. But it's super calm. We were so calm. You'll see when we switch to the inside view. It's just a really gentle liftoff. You don't even realize you're in space. You can see us shake a little bit there, and then we're on our way. It was about 2 a.m. when we launched. This is a picture of my family watching. So the only thing lighting them up right now is our plume from our rocket, which was making my mom very nervous, but I think it's a cool picture. And then off we go. We go about 17,000 miles an hour in the end, and it's only a 9-minute ride, a little over 9 minutes. So the force of acceleration the whole time is pretty impressive. You can see that's us inside, and we're riding into space, and it just looks calm as can be, mainly because we don't have that view, and we don't know the gravity of the situation, no pun intended. And so it's the Soyuz Russian-built rocket I launched out of Kazakhstan. It's a 3-stage rocket. The first stage has 5 engines, so it's a pretty powerful kick towards the end, about 4.5 times the force of gravity. And this is us actually at engine cutoff, so now we're in space floating, and you can see it's pretty dynamic. But then the best part hits you when you realize that you've just went through this crazy thing and you're alive. And the raw emotion here, I think, is pretty much perfect. It's like, and then, of course, the next thing is that's a toy for my daughter floating around there that we had tied to the hatch. And then we had a couple of GoPros with us, and I grabbed it off the wall. And I decided the view outside, of course, is what it's all about. And that was just amazing. And so that's not a NASA studio, that's reality. I was there. And this is us getting ready to dock to the space station. It's about a 6-hour ride as we're phasing with the space station catching up, which is extremely quick. It used to take us 2 days, but now they just do a really accurate insertion on ascent, and they throw us right at the space station. Cool thing for the aero folks here, totally automated. The entire ride uphill is automated. We had no controls whatsoever. If anything went wrong, it was based on the rocket deciding for itself that something was wrong and basically ejecting us off the top of it. The entire rendezvous sequence here, I didn't touch anything. All I was doing was keeping us alive with our life support systems, and the rocket did everything. And the right side there is us docking to the space station, and the left side is our little tiny launch vehicle. The first time you get to float, I thought it would be this magical, crazy experience, but in reality, it's very uncomfortable. Nothing feels right. You don't know how to do it. Everything is awkward and clumsy. All your food is up at the top of your throat, and you're trying to swallow it down. At this point, we hadn't gone to the bathroom in about 10 hours, so the first words that we uttered as we came through the hatch was, where's the bathroom? We have got to go. Alex was the first through the hatch for our crew, and then I came through third. And you can see just the look on my face. I mean, I'm lost. I've trained for 5 years, basically, for this moment, and I'm completely lost. Because when you just take away gravity from the situation, it does crazy things to your mind. There were already 3 astronauts up there, 1 American and 2 Russians when we got up. And they'd been up for about 2 months, and then we joined them, and we became a crew of 6. A little time lapse of the view, and then we didn't get to shoot this video, but it's a neat view of the space station from outside. Let me see if this laser pointer works. Yeah, so when you look, we're in San Francisco. We're the ultimate green machine, so all our power comes from those 8 solar arrays. Of course, I think it's like 1 million pounds in orbit, so we kind of crushed some of the environment getting it all up there. But once it's up there, it's totally self-supportive. We live in the kind of the center stack here. I'm sorry to use the mouse pointer, but this is kind of our habitable area right there. This back half is the Russian segment, and we go down there and do some work from time to time, and then this forward half is all the Russian, Japanese, and European segments, and it's just bustling with activity. This cross structure that runs left to right here, all that does is just holds up our solar arrays and then our thermal panels, which you see out here. And really the whole goal of this entire operation is first, to do general research and see what happens to things when you remove gravity from the situation. But in reality, I mean, this is the platform that we will do the most learning to go deeper into space. And I'll kind of touch on that here in a couple minutes. But first, it's going to play automatically. I wanted to give you guys kind of this feeling of what it's like when you just take gravity away, because it captured my imagination. And I am not, I never was an operational engineer or scientist, but when I got into space, really what you are is just a kid. You're inquisitive, and it's just crazy. And here was, some of you may have seen this, we decided to build a water bubble and stick a GoPro inside of it just to see what it would look like from the video. And so all these little spheres are little air pockets inside this larger bubble that we had built. And watching something, you can see there's Steve Swanson. He's a PhD in computer science. And just watching him behave like a little child and just giggling over this water bubble, I loved it. I loved every minute of that. And it was great. That's Oleg Artemyev, a Russian. Then I thought, like, what is the surface tension of water? Will these 2 bubbles bounce off, or will they stick together? And so in this case, they stuck together, but they had some pretty good mass to them. So then I got out a syringe with a Teflon catheter, and I started making these little water bubbles. And this pretty much ended an entire Saturday afternoon for me. I couldn't stop playing with this stuff, and you'll see why. So if you have enough force to break the surface tension, you add to your bubble. If you don't, you just bounce little bubbles off of this bigger water bubble. And then the water bubble's a lens. You can see my head in the water bubble upside down there. And closest thing that I came to a shower in space were these little bubbles bouncing off there. So then I'll add some water here, and then halfway through I'm just adding a little bit of water. I thought, what would happen if I added air? Would it pop the bubble? Would I build air inside? So that's an air bubble now being added to a water bubble, and it just bounces around the inside of the water bubble. It was amazing to me. And you'll see I hit it from the side, and I actually bounced the air bubble off the other side of the bubble. And then the air bubble is its own little lens inside there. You can see my face in the air bubble. But then we decided we got to put a human inside the water bubble. And so we built one more water bubble. And since Alex Gerst didn't have hair, he was the one that was going in the water bubble. And And so you'll see here we did it with him. It's amazing. The scariest thing is afterwards he was like, wow, I could have drowned in that water bubble. I mean, without any problem. All right, so that just should, at Google, you guys have amazing imaginations, and that should kind of set it. So the real reason that we're up there is the science. And to me, the science is kind of 3 phases. There is the core science. This is like my first week up there. I'm going to whack my head on the floor here, I think. I knew it was coming. But we kind of got this 3-phase science. We're doing physical science about 1/3 of our day. We're doing maintenance about 1/3 of our day. But living on an orbiting outpost, I think that maintenance is probably some of the best science we do up there. Learning how to fix our own machine and keep this thing going without too much ground support. And then the 3rd phase is just keeping our body in good shape. And I mean, we were all lab experiments up there, and so more blood has been taken from me than I ever thought possible. Some of this is, we had these autonomous satellites. Here, they could either work off of CO2, or here we have these electromagnetic rings around them, and we were trying to do different orbiting station-keeping experiments with just using electromagnetic forces. And it worked okay. It was pretty good. A lot of this is MIT-based research, and some of it's going on over at Ames. But one of them, we also strapped a cell phone onto these satellites and used the cell phone to map the inside of the station, and the satellites knew where they are and they could fly all over the place. But the most fun science that I got to be a part of was towards the end of my mission, we flew up 20 mice. And that was another NASA Ames-based research thing. And just watching these mice go from scared little animals on day 1, 2, and 3 on space station to the end when I saw them around day 40. And these guys were completely adapted to floating. They would float from their cheese over to their water. And they'd even learned how to run around the cage to build themselves a little exercise machine up there. And you would watch them. They were all female. One little girl would run around, then she would jump off, and another one come and run around. And it was really cool to watch. From my perspective, it was neat to watch them adapt. And then from the science perspective, their little organisms are going so fast. It's like watching a human almost over their entire lifetime in space and see how their bone density is changing, their muscles are wasting. And I think down the road, the research that we can get from that will be awesome. We also did a lot of work with protein crystal growth, a lot of colloidal research to see how things settle or don't settle without gravity. That's me mixing up some stuff for Procter & Gamble. So really, I mean, in any given day, each one of us was running about 5 hours of physical science. And the best part, I guess, overall, we're tied directly in with the investigators on the ground, talking to them on a radio. They've got a camera over our shoulder. And we've flown in space since the 1960s. But every time I did an experiment, the PI on the ground would go, whoa, 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 do that again. I totally didn't expect that. And it's just pulling away gravity and then running these experiments. I would have thought we had researched the life out of low Earth orbit, but we hadn't. I mean, everything we were doing was kind of surprising to these researchers, and that made it fun. Here's about 2 months in, and I'm not going to hit my head, but I missed the top, missed the grab up there. But getting better, less injuries. And this is kind of going into maintenance. This is our water regen system. So it takes all of our urine, it processes it through here and turns it back into drinking water. It takes the sweat, it takes any condensation out of the air. So we run pretty low humidity. It takes about 3 days to cycle through that thing. So urine, 3 days later, becomes your drinking water, urine and sweat. And it was great. I mean, we were reclaiming like 95% of all of our water up there. And it's to the point where they're even stripping the hydrogen off the water molecules to make oxygen to put it into the cabin, so it turns into our breathing air as well. So that's the 5% that we're losing. This is us tearing apart a spacesuit that I'm going to do a spacewalk in about a month later. And so the maintenance that we're doing, knowing that I'm working on my spacesuit that I'm about to do a spacewalk in, was absolutely terrifying. I mean, there was no way that I should be pulling pumps out of this thing and changing them. And this is Swanee working on the toilet, which was absolutely critical gear. And when that thing broke, basically everything stopped on station, and we would work to fix it. So you're a handyman to the highest degree, and working on this complicated stuff with the ground teams was really awesome. And then kind of the third major part was looking at my body, and I became a fantastic ultrasound tech. looking at my calf muscles, my thigh muscles, seeing how they're changing. My calves changed so much, it was unbelievable. They all went from the back of my calf around to the front, around to my shin area, because you're just not walking. And you're using the top of your feet to lock under handrails so you can keep yourself stationary, because Newton wins every argument up there. And so it's a different way to work. And then our eyes, because your blood kind of pulls all throughout your body and not down in your legs, it puts a lot of pressure on the back of your eyes. So we did lots of research on the blood vessels and what's going on with the pressure. Some astronauts experience total sight change and they have to wear reading glasses by the end. I was young enough that it didn't affect me too much, but ultrasounding the own eye, all of my heart valves ultrasounded over time, carotid artery, brachial artery, and this is how we keep ourselves in shape. We actually have a weight machine up there. We can do squats up to 600 pounds. I'm not anywhere near capable of that, so I was doing squats up to about 300 pounds, which if you think about it, since I didn't weigh anything, is really not impressive at all. And then we have a treadmill, which I love, and our treadmill is actually mounted on the wall, so this is an Earth-based view. So you're running straight down at the Earth when you're running on the treadmill. And the treadmill is crazy. The first time I got on that, just feeling my insides bouncing up and down, my food you could feel food bouncing off the top of your stomach, just really interesting. And your legs would tingle. And then somebody was talking about some really cold stuff when I walked in. Was it you guys? Oh, yeah, it was us. Yeah, so our freezers up there are running anywhere between minus 90 C and minus 160 C, and we have to, all of our samples that we want to get ground analysis, we put in those freezers, slow everything way down, and then we send them home on a Dragon spaceship. And so I never liked working in those freezers. They were so unbelievably cold. And why I'm doing it in short sleeves, after this I started wearing long sleeves. And long pants. All right, and so how do we keep this thing running? This is a launch of a orbital. This is Orbital 2. If any of you guys follow space big time, this is the one that made it to us, not the one that didn't make it to us. And so what we do is we have these two companies, Orbital and SpaceX, and they are just totally building their own rockets, and then we are buying that service from them and launching them up to the space station. And it's really, really neat. I mean, just watching these two companies work, they've come to totally different ways of doing business, but they've both been very successful. And the way we grab these things, they don't actually dock. They just float up next to us in low Earth orbit, and we take the robotic arm out and just grab them out of space, pull them over, and then plug them into the space station. That's a view of the orbital kind of coming up and getting plugged in. Orbital is like, it's like a great pickup truck. This thing came just loaded with food and science for us, really awesome, but it can't survive re-entry. So when we get all the supplies out of it, now that's where all our trash goes from the space station. And let me tell you, that's definitely, if we ever go somewhere really far like Mars, we gotta take care of our trash, because we filled this thing completely up. And you'll see when it re-enters Earth's atmosphere here in a minute, it's fun to watch all your trash burn up. So we'll release this one, and I just hit one little button. It's the go home button. Obviously, this is a time lapse. It didn't happen this fast, but I love this. It's like a Jetsons moment. Watching the thing, and it'll go out. It'll actually accelerate, go up over the top of us, and then it's coming down. And this was some research we were doing, but it kind of almost captures orbital reentry through the atmosphere. You can see the big tail building there, and then just as it goes off, you can see some flashes of light, and then all the particles of trash just kind of floating out behind it. And then the other main cargo vehicle that we have is just right down in Hawthorne, California, where they're building the SpaceX Dragon. And this thing is fantastic. This is like our science workhorse because it can survive re-entry. And hopefully in about 3 years, we'll be throwing humans on that thing and sending them up there. And this is just a really fantastic vehicle for us. So same thing for Dragon. It just floats up beside us. You can see the robotic arm is ready to go out and grab it. And we'll go out, grab it, and bring it in. And I got a good picture of that thing right over Hawthorne when I was up there. It was really nice. But when I look at this, all I think of is work. This thing carried so much work. When we docked SpaceX, we didn't take a day off for about 28 days. It was just, I mean, that little tiny capsule carried that much research in it. And it was all fun stuff, but it was brutal. We worked almost as hard probably as you guys, I guess. But we were really cranking through. All right, so obviously going out into the vacuum of space, the only thing that's there to protect us is the spacesuit. And this is the one that I've just kind of replaced the pump on, so I already was a little bit nervous about it. But the thing that I'm talking about here, we don't have sound going, but I'm pretty afraid of heights. Like, I couldn't walk up to the top of the building and look out over the edge. It just makes my stomach go crazy. And so I didn't know when we were starting these spacewalks, and I had to be the first one out the hatch, I didn't know if I could get out the hatch. Like, can I physically get over this hurdle of 250 miles up to get out the hatch? And so I opened up the hatch, and all I looked down on was the Pacific Ocean, and there was a full moon beating down in the clouds, and it was like evil just inviting me out. Just come on, Reid, come on out. And I went outside, and it was awesome. This is a view from inside the space station looking up at the airlock, and this is me and my German buddy Alex coming out of the airlock for the first time and getting going. And once you get over the fact that you're high up, you just know you let go and you're just going to be floating. We always stay tethered to the space station. There's one of the tethers in my right hand. It's really just a phenomenal experience. The thing that you're always looking for is the sound of the fan. It's kind of blowing air over around the left side of your air. And as long as that fan's going, you're alive and you're doing good. There's a part here where I'll kind of let go and push off, and it still gives my stomach like the willies a little bit right there, like pushing off. And now I have no hands on the space station other than my tether. We use the big robotic arm. We actually had Alex Gerst attached to that thing, and so he had extended reach of about 100 feet. There's him kind of cruising through outer space on the end of the robotic arm, and he's carrying a gigantic refrigerator, which was a pump that had failed last year, and we were putting that thing away. So the view from out there was amazing. I got to go all over the space station, went all the way out the port and starboard side, repairing things. That's us, like all messed up in these bundles of cables, rewiring the robotic arm. The highest intensity thing I've ever done, and the most mentally and physically grueling. I came in from that, and all I wanted to do was go to bed. I mean, I was devastated after both of them, just completely worn out, which is great. It's a great feeling. And that's my little body there, working on a pallet. Attempted a selfie. And then time to go home. Home is... It's a great feeling to get in that rock. I was nervous getting in, but just like launch, once you get in, you know it's time to go home. And it's an extremely high energy event, and if something goes wrong, well, it's just not your day. So we get in there, we close the hatch, we get in these little spacesuits that are going to protect us in case we have a depressurization, and then we'll push some buttons and back away from the space station. And we back away, we kind of go out up over the top again, and then we'll light our engines. Just a little bit of a deceleration, about 128 meters per second deceleration, and that's enough just to send us home. And this is a little video from inside of us, just a raging fireball about 3,000 degrees. And those little flashes of light are part of our ablative heat shield that are supposed to be burning off. But it's crazy when you're sitting in there at about 5 Gs, knowing it's 3,000 degrees outside and parts of you are burning up. It's amazing. You can see the windows totally burned by the end of reentry. And then after about 5 minutes of craziness, the parachute comes out, and it's just a great 15-minute ride back down to the earth. And then you slam home after 6 months of weightlessness, and it's painful. And we hit down, and then we tipped over, and so I wasn't feeling super well at that point. And Max, my commander, because of the way we tipped over, I was up high, and then Max, and then Alex was all the way down on the ground. And Max says, "Hey, Reid, how you feeling?" And I said, I think I'm going to puke, Max. And Alex is like, no, because he would have been right in the line of fire. Coming home and landing, the biggest thing that I remember was walking. I felt my calf muscles just twitching like crazy, trying to keep me up. And then my head, it was like it would just flop over because you haven't used your neck muscles. As much working out as we do, you haven't used your neck muscles in 6 months. And so just getting my body to remember that is actually some mass at the top of my shoulders was the biggest thing. And then I can't leave you guys without talking about just the view outside a little bit. So this is the cupola that I'm in right here, and I had to give some RPI love, but that's really what it looks like when you're floating in the cupola. It's a great place to hang out. It's an even better place to hang out at night. And I hijacked one little video off the internet. From YouTube. It was some of Don Pettit's imagery, but it's great. This is coming down over California, looking to the south, and that little white dot there is Las Vegas. And then you can see Baja on the right side, coming down over some thunderstorms there in the Pacific, over Central America, and then where Central America kind of next down, and then we'll work our way down towards South America and Chile here in a minute. And don't feel bad about the fog here, because Chile is always living in it, just like you guys are. That's the line right there of the fog kind of pushing up from the Pacific onto Chile as we look south. Chile's gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous place. Coming down over Florida and the Keys, and then Cuba, a bunch of lightning storms out over the Bahamas and the Caribbean. There's Orion rising in the background. This is over Asia. The green lights are fishing boats. Coming down over all of Europe, and then Italy on the right side with Sicily is very visible. And then the Mediterranean coming up over Greece, your hometown, and then over Cyprus, and there's Israel, Lebanon. Off to the right is Egypt, Cairo, the Red Sea, coming down over Saudi Arabia. And then we were super lucky. We had amazing aurora up there. And if you want to talk radiation, we would fly through an aurora about like this, and then I was the IT guy on the space station. I would be changing out hard drives on almost every laptop. So that was the end of them. HDD 01 error. And the aurora were just incredible. I didn't really realize that these are just charged particles kind of bouncing from pole to pole, and you would just watch them flicker at insane rates and snake their way across the sky, and you're just floating through them. You could never get enough of the aurora. And they go from green to red. I've still never seen them from Earth, which is unfortunate. I got to fix that soon. There's a lot. I already went to the Bahamas because the view of the Bahamas was so good. When I came back, I grabbed my wife and kids and we went to the Bahamas. I just had to see what those waters look like in real life, and they were every bit as good as I thought they would be. And then, just to end, everybody likes pictures of themselves. And so, well, I guess this is a picture of LA mainly, so this isn't a good one to show, but you can see Baja California is running off to the left, and we're looking to the west out to the Pacific. There's a little tiny naval air station somewhere around here of El Centro, and then LA is that kind of gray smudge on the lower right side of the screen there. And it sounds funny, but that's really, Manhattan is the biggest gray smudge on the face of the planet. I mean, it's just amazing. And that's all the cities look like until you look at them through a really long lens. This is looking up now into the Central Valley, and a little bit of fog in the Bay Area there. And then what turned out to be kind of one of my favorite views, this is just to the east of the Central Valley looking back to the west. And just look at our country. I mean, I love it, all the valleys, all the mountains. And then looking back into the Central Valley, and maybe it's fog or smog, I'm not sure. I think it's a little bit of farming, and then off to the coast. But the west half of the U.S. was amazing. Once you cross the east half, where I grew up, Maryland and all that, once you cross the Mississippi, it just turns into green forest, and it's absolutely boring. I mean, there's just nothing to see, unless it's nighttime, and at nighttime you can see it all. I love this photo. This is you guys at night. So Bay Area is here. You got LA off to the right. Vegas is this white square of lights that's very obvious. But even this far south, just avert your eyes a little bit to the left, and there's the aurora up over Canada, and really amazing. And this is a good representation here about the amount of stars you would see with your human eye at night and the aurora. That's about a human perspective. And then I had a really nice long lens, an 800 millimeter, and some new cameras came up about halfway through, and then I could start to get some really cool city imagery. So there's a better view of the Bay Area, San Jose, and was able to snake one at night too. So San Jose is on the right there. Obviously, you guys know this area better than I do. But the night stuff was so cool because it's just such a vivid thing. And then I threw this one in because it's Google. A kid asked me to go down and take a longer exposure just so he could see a lot of stars. And I don't know why I hadn't thought of doing that, but I did it. And when I saw this pop up on the display of the camera, I was just completely beside myself. And it really changed the way I think about everything. And I think that's what you guys do so well here at Google, is just changing, looking around the data at different angles and seeing something that you didn't expect. And the thing, I expected the Milky Way there in the center. I mean, we've all seen that. But what I didn't expect was this awesome red hue here, and then this little green band that goes across the atmosphere, and then the whole Earth is kind of lit up in this yellow. And Alex and I were talking for a long time about what it is, and he was thinking, and I agree with him, is we're over the Saharan desert right here, and there's probably dust and sand particulate that's just floating around in the atmosphere. So with that, I think I'll stop talking, and I'll let you guys ask some questions. If I can get this video to play, I'll just move forward here for a second, and just let some, it's just some funny, goofy video, but it'll make a good backdrop while we're asking questions. This was one of our best.
We're live here? Yeah.
Human perspective. This is Alex giving me a cappuccino after lunch. So he would do one, and then I would do one, and it was good.
So I'm Kevin. You talked about how you were in the Navy. I was too, actually. I was part of the
Awesome.
Nimitz strike group on the USS Chosen. What do you fly in, or what carrier?
I started on the carriers. I started on the Abraham Lincoln. I did 2 deployments on the Lincoln, and then I went over. I did Yeah, just managing food. And then I did a couple of deployments on the did a couple of deployments on the Eisenhower. So they were my main boats. I did a little stint on the George Washington as we took it around South America, which was also a really neat cruise. Got to go through the Straits of Magellan, and that was when I bought my first digital SLR. Was because I was going to take a carrier through the Straits of Magellan, and I didn't want to do that without photos. And everybody made fun of me because I'd be up at 5 in the morning in Tierra del Fuego taking pictures of sunrises. And all my friends were like, oh, come on, you're a pilot. You shouldn't be doing that. But some of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life was going through the Straits of Magellan. Great place.
Yeah, we were West Coast, so we didn't get to do that.
Take a sailboat through there.
So I've heard through various stories that the Russian space toilet is the preferred space toilet. Is that true? And if so, why?
So the Russian space toilet is so much the preferred space toilet that we have 2 of them up there, and the Americans basically just bought the Russian space toilet and we put it on our segment. We used to have, when the shuttle flew, the shuttle had its own toilet. It was a very good system. I never got to use it in space. I've seen it on the ground. I haven't used it on the ground. But they do talk that it was a very good system, but it was also extremely complicated. And the Russian system is really just a small separator, which is like a pump in a vacuum cleaner, and it just draws a little suction regardless of which way you're going. And it's not extremely simple, but it's very simple in comparison to the shuttle system. And so everything inside the guts of that, we can just jump in there and fix, repair, swap parts out, no problem. I mean, we did 3 or 4 repairs on the space toilet while we were up there. And so the shuttle one is, the Russian one is definitely the preferred toilet.
Now I know.
Now you know.
I've wondered for years.
How long did it take you to get back to normal health once you got back? And are there any long-term or permanent effects, especially from radiation in the auroras?
Great question. So I'll start from today and I'll work backwards. So even just standing here today, I have a little bit of discomfort in my spine as my back muscles continue to work. And our spine kind of softens. They're doing some research on it right now. I wasn't a part of this study. It's really just starting. But our spine actually softens quite a bit in space. And so I think it's going to be pretty interesting research when they look at what's going on. But that's been the big long-term thing, is just getting my back in shape. And then my stamina. Like, I will leave here, and if I sit down on a couch, I will take a nap instantaneously. And I didn't used to do that, but ever since I came back from space, I think my body's gotten used to being a little bit lazy in zero-G. Yeah, dancing is never good in a public forum, and this is going on YouTube. And so right after landing, the biggest thing was leg muscles and my feet. I would stand. I have a tile kitchen floor, and I do like to cook, so I'd be cooking dinner the second or third day I was back. And after about 20 minutes, I just had to sit down. My feet could not take that pressure anymore on the bottoms of them. And just kind of getting your neurovestibular system back running. You know, I was a little bit sloppy. I've been back home a week, and I was feeling really good, pretty arrogant, really. And I just went to flip a screwdriver over and catch it, and it whiffed completely. I mean, I didn't have any altitude on it at all. It started to flip and went right to the garage floor, and so I realized that I was way off of where I should have been. But it all came back really quick. So you think about landing on Mars, and you could get right out of the vehicle and just start working if you really needed to. The human body's a pretty impressive machine.
You were pointing out when we were looking at the space station from the outside, the various solar panels, and I thought I heard you say thermal panels. Is that
yeah,
something
we have a couple extremely over-engineered radiators that are supposed to exhaust our heat out into space, and they are used. We run ammonia through them as the coolant lines on the external side, and then water on the internal side, and we do use them, but I mean their capability is way beyond the heat rejection in the end that we really need. So, yeah. The technology behind them is pretty fantastic.
Maybe you should explain why the heat exchangers, because it's getting hot on the sun side, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is really what's going through our internals, like all of our internal operations. And so outside the space station, we're running around plus or minus 300 degrees as we go around the Earth into daylight and into shade. And so we have shell heaters to keep it warm at night, and then we need some way to radiate this heat away in the day. So we use that. We use coatings. We use thermal blankets, stuff like that. But then those big radiators are mainly just taking the heat from inside and rejecting them out into space. If any of you guys follow the World Cup, this is Alex getting ready to tell me if Germany beats America, then we have to shave our heads. And so this was the last day I had hair for quite a while in space. And then if we had beaten Germany, we were going to paint an American flag on his head with some. We had found some paint up there, and sure enough, we lost. And I did not want to shave my head at all. Not at all. It took some good convincing from our commander to get me to go. And so we shaved our heads, and we had to stop for a while at the Mohawk stage, and took about a half a day in space with Mohawks, and then we went the rest of the way. Cutting your hair in space it's actually great. You just hook a vacuum cleaner up to the back of the clippers and go to town.
So I have a question.
Hold on.
You guys trying to spin around there. I saw a video from Spawner Every Day, and they were doing like cat videos of dropping them and seeing if you could flip over.
Right.
Were you guys part of that?
We were not part of that, but I tell you, if I had a cat up there, I would have definitely dropped it. I don't think much would have happened. It would have just floated there. But no, we weren't part of that.
Because I remember them talking about that, and it was like, wait a minute, I don't know if that's them or not.
No, it wasn't us. One thing that kind of brings to my mind, though, is I thought often about, I wish I had a 10-year-old up there with me, because their brains are so adaptive and their bodies are so adaptive, and the things that they would think of, like, you know, my kids right now will just pull out their iPad minis and just go to town and doing stuff that I don't even know to do, but they just know to do it because they're just sponges. And so I hope someday in our lifetime we'll get where we have commercial space station up there and we can send some kids up and just watch them go nuts. I think it'd be really fun. They'd be more nuts. This is us doing fake morning calisthenics.
Reid, why don't you say something about your social networking stuff from space? You're quite known for that, right?
Yeah, but it's a competitor, so I can't talk about that.
That's fine, come on.
Oh, so I didn't intend, I was a rookie going on a long-duration mission, and we haven't had a whole lot of rookies at NASA that have launched straight into long-duration spaceflight. Most times, most of these older folks have gone up on the shuttle, spent 2 weeks in space, and come back and kind of ease their way into it. So I didn't really want to do a whole lot on social media. Swanee, he's our athletics trainer, pretty much. I mean, the guy's amazing. So I didn't want to do a whole lot on social media, but I did want to share what it is like, because most people have had the dream of weightlessness and going into space. I just wanted to share that little bit. So when I got up there, I wanted to put some of my emotions. What am I feeling? So I talked about how my body felt, how I didn't feel great, what was going on the treadmill. And then I realized that the view outside is also extremely captivating, and so I just started taking pictures and throwing them online. And with the help of some folks at NASA, the Twitter account exploded. And I also really wanted to take this world and put it in motion. Like just watching Alex here fake swimming through the Japanese segment of the space station is hysterical. And so I wanted to kind of put motion into it. And so Vine had just started a little bit before we launched. And when I first got to space, we were in an area around the sun called high beta, where the sun never set for us in our orbital track. And so we would go all day long with no sunsets. But when I would look out the cupola, the sun just did a slow loop over the course of the day, and I thought that was hysterical. So I took a Vine of that, and that was the first Vine from space, where the sun's just always doing this circle around the sky. And it was Vine's a really neat way to just share. You know, the human attention span is shrinking. We can blame Twitter for that, I don't know. But Vine, 6.5 seconds of low-grade video seemed to be a great recipe for space. And I got to share lightning storms, and the lightning from space, when you're looking down on that from above, was probably the most fascinating thing, just watching all the different kinds of lightning and how it would creep across the clouds. And just getting to throw that online and share it was magnificent. And now I have a whole journal of my time up there, which is really neat. And I've used it a lot since I came back.
Hopefully this isn't too space political, but tagging on to your point about the commercial space station, what are your thoughts on like SLS and the Orion capsule versus like SpaceX and commercial space flight? You
know, it's kind of the difference between like a Ferrari and a Ford F-150 pickup. You know, they have each one is great in their own respect, is the easiest way to put it. And so Orion and SLS, if we just launched that thing to the space station, it would be a colossal waste of money. So we're talking about heavy lift, long duration, getting stuff really far away from the Earth. And to do that, we need to put a lot of mass into orbit. So that's what SLS is going to do with Orion. And we just launched Orion in November on a first flight test, and it went exceedingly well. And so that program is actually looking pretty good. And the SLS is a really reconfigurable, capable rocket, so you can strap on extra boosters and put more mass in, or take some boosters off if you don't need it. So I really like where that's going, because I want to go as far as we can as a human being. Exploration is awesome, and I want to do as much of it as we can. But then when you look at the SpaceX model, I mean, they're really just trying to get a little bit of mass to the space station. And what's great about them is they're doing it super efficient, super cheap, and when you take away all the layers of, I guess I could say, bureaucracy. I mean, they can strip it right down to the bare bones, like you guys do here every day. And you can innovate, configure, test, didn't work, change, fly another one, test, change. And the way that they've eased into this is launching cargo for a few years. They've learned a ton. And now their design for launching humans has evolved a lot from all of that. And so hopefully 2017, 2018, I think it'll be more like 2018, we'll be putting humans on that. And then we also have Boeing. Boeing is building a capsule. So we have kind of a parallel path, which I love. So if somebody encounters a problem, we can always work around. Having a couple options, I mean, that's the American way, and that's great. And then we're waiting for the Google design, but I don't know if it's coming.
That's obviously classified. We're not going to talk about that today.
So are we ready to send people to Mars? And if not, what's standing in our way?
It's a great question, and it's one that I can only talk very high level to. I'd say radiation is standing in our way. I'd say supplies is standing in our way. When I looked at my food and the amount of waste, not food waste, but packaging waste, because everything has to be in a plastic bag for rehydratables, and then there's got to be a little radiation shielding around that. And if I just thought of all the food, I mean, I would look at all this mass and packaging of food. So just the sustainability of us has to get a little bit better. From the oxygen, water, CO2 scrubbing, bathroom side, I think we've got a great system. And if you have enough spare parts, you're going to be in good shape. 3D printing is going to really be a fantastic thing for us to be able to just print spare parts, spare tools. That really will be a game changer. And we had a 3D printer up there right when I left. Unfortunately, I didn't get it hooked up in time to print. But they've been printing up there on a first generation, then they're going to have a second generation soon. So that one's going to be great. And then the other one that's the unknown factor is radiation. And when you get outside of the protective layers of the Earth and you spend 500 days outside of that, radiation is going to be kind of a big deal. But MSL just went out. It had radiation detectors all over it. And the picture looks a little better than we thought. And so I think it seems like it's a pipe dream. But if somebody just says, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it by now, I think we can do it. And I was just reading about Mars One this morning. And they only need a couple billion. And they're going to try it, I think. But the technology it's not there right now, but all the underlying levels are there, and all we need is that driving force to just say, all right, we're going to go do it. Let's just stop messing around. Let's just go do it. So I think it's definitely possible. I think we should see it in our lifetimes, hopefully. It'd be great.
How does 3D printing differ in zero-G?
I talked to the guys a little bit, and they said it really doesn't differ a whole lot. The machine is pretty much just like printing at home. So I don't know the technicals of it. It was made in space. It made the 3D printer. So look them up and buy them.
We saw the fluid dynamics, and you mentioned how you had a lot of blood drawn from you.
Yeah.
And how does the body react to trauma? And say there was arterial bleeding, or do the platelets react and clot at the same rate? How like a physical trauma of a bruise, does it heal quickly?
So the only side that I can talk to that from, because I'm not a doctor and I just don't know enough of the details of what's going on inside me, but I can talk from what happened to me while I was up there and what I saw. And so we get nicks and cuts all the time, and it seemed like the healing rate was just like on Earth. It seemed like your bleed rate was just like on Earth. So your clotting functions appear to be totally normal. Your blood volume does change because your body recognizes that your blood is not pulling in your legs, so it just starts to shed off a little bit of your blood volume. So when we come back to Earth, just standing up at the end of the mission can lead to passing out until you get your blood volume back up. But aside from that, I mean, it appeared as though our body, which shouldn't operate in zero-G, works really well from that perspective. And so we had one guy get a small water burn, and that healed up actually pretty quick. I was surprised. So if you think in space, like if you grab a hot pan or you put your hand under hot water, the first thing you do is back away. Well, I'd never thought about this before, but he got hit in the back of his head with a little bit of hot liquid that had come out of the water dispenser, and the first thing he did was smack it, and now he's got 2 places of burns, and there was no way to get it off until he got clothing and towels and stuff like that to get this off. And so he had some blistering, and it scared me. It was a moment where I had never thought of hot water as such a dangerous thing, and then in space, you can really hurt yourself on that. But we appeared to heal just fine. Good question.
Could you hurt yourself with hot air? I mean, you can make a bubble of water. You could make a bubble of really hot air.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you definitely could. Overall, our ventilation system, though, was kind of shedding that stuff, I think. But there's a lot of great ways to hurt yourself. I mean, I came very close to breaking a finger. You get stuff in your eyes, like floating particulate every once in a while. And so NASA's really, really, really careful about just like any shard of metal. I mean, now that's a very scary thing when you're up there floating around.
I remember somebody was telling me when he was on a spacewalk, they had a problem in their eyes when the eyes started tearing,
right?
And those tears became a blob over his eye. He could barely see stuff. So
one of the first things I noticed was just when you laugh so hard you cry, then that's just stuck in your eye, and it just forms this bubble in your eyes. It's a very weird feeling at first, and so you're dabbing your tears out of your eyes, and I experienced that quite a bit up there. So yeah, for sure.
So you mentioned some experiments from Procter & Gamble. Are they paying you guys to do that? And if so, how do you feel about that?
I could probably defer to some of our NASA folks here, but we have this organization now called CASIS, which is really trying to bring in outside research. And the space station, now that we're extending out to 2024, like that's the pride and joy of our operation. It's just getting these outside people to fly their research. And so it's almost all of it is going to be some sort of joint work, like working with NASA to fly their research up onto the space station. But CASIS is really working on turning around stuff extremely, extremely quickly, which NASA's not good at, and getting this outside thinking up there. And the rodent research that we're doing right now with the mice is one of the prime examples. That has just exploded. And they're talking about our utilization at least for the next 5 years of just being hardcore, looking at these things from a CASIS perspective, looking at immune function, looking at brain wasting, all kinds of just crazy things with the mice. And so they may even fly them for 180 days and go through a whole life cycle of them in orbit. And, yeah, really amazing to see. And so I really applaud the efforts of trying to bring in these outside people to make it. I don't think you could ever make it necessarily profitable, but just to open it up and get things in space quickly with some great imagination and see what happens.
One more question. So the space station has been, 15 years now?
Yeah, about 15 years.
So that's a lot of miles flown in orbit. Was there ever, like an event of, like micrometeorites, what am I talking about? Micrometeors.
We call it MMOD, yeah, damage from micrometeors.
Hitting, and puncturing anything, or like leaving a trace of some sort on the space station.
Absolutely, we have holes all over it, little ones. And the whole thing is shielded in an MMOD shielding. But the one example from my flight, our cupola windows, we were looking out the front window. Go to bed, get up the next morning, and there's like almost a dime-size chip in the outer surface of the window. Almost like you're driving down the highway and a rock hit you. And you're like, I mean, that was going 17,000 miles an hour plus probably when it whacked us. But those windows are designed to take it, and you just hope you don't get another hit in that exact same spot. But the space station is very well designed for all that, and it's holding up well. When we were out on a spacewalk, I mean, you could look all over at little dings and chips and nicks and things like that, but nothing like a hole, nothing like a giant hole in the side of it. So far we've been good on that.
All right, so you mentioned that now you're feeling like discomfort standing up for a while, even now. That's just after 6 months being up there. Are you going to get the chance to go up again, or is that a one and done thing?
But no, I should definitely get the chance to go up again, hopefully within about 5 years. We'll see.
So is it just kind of a wait till everything grows back and you can stand and do everything regularly, and then, or?
No, right. I mean, right now I could fly again. When I talk about discomfort, it's extremely mild, but I can still feel it a little bit. So it just lets me know that I'm not fully there all the way around. But the best therapy for that right now would be going back up and get back in weightlessness and stretching back out. I grew a little over 1.5 inches while I was up there, just as my spine elongated, and made it to about 6 feet tall, which was good. We have a little growth chart in Node 1 with people that have put their names on the wall as they grow. So it's a lot like your parents' old house up there. It's pretty cute. Yep.
So what you're saying is if I want to grow, I should go up in this space.
Yeah, you will definitely get about 1.5 inches of vertical out of that.
Yeah, so the space station has been up for a while, 15 years. Is living inside the space station still, does it feel like being inside of like a developmental aircraft where you're still attaching new things and new pumps are coming in and new procedures to operate it? Or is it pretty well established on how to use the space station?
You would think it's completely established, and in the end, it's not at all established. Everything is changing. You guys would go up there and laugh at the technology because in order to get stuff flown into space, the turnaround time is pretty long, and that's where CASIS is trying to change that. I mean, our computers were these extremely old. I think they're like T520s or something. I mean, you just look at these computers like, wow. But we just upgraded to Windows 7, which was pretty nice for us. That was a big upgrade. Made it there. But no, everything is changing, and we're learning. We used to just do these hardcore procedures that were written out, and now we're realizing that, you know what, instead of the written word, maybe we can just put a 5-second video clip in that just shows you zooming into this panel and turning on this switch that you need to find in a really hard location. And instead of putting that in 15 lines of procedures, you just put it in one little video, and then that's embedded in what they send up to us. And I know some guys were just under the water at this thing called Nemo, and they were all wearing Google Glass and running their procedures right on that. And so I see the functionality for all that would be fantastic. And then the hardware is all changing. I mean, we're swapping out our CO2 scrubbers. They were not on-orbit cleanable. And so now we're changing out all the filters there to make them on-orbit cleanable. And that changes the whole game. Because CO2, we run a bit higher up there, gives you a really bad headache from time to time. And that was one thing that we learned. Hey, the current design just is not sufficient. So now we're working on this new design. They're going to fly it next year, and they'll be vacuumable, and just it'll be much better. We can run the CO2 down to a lower level. So there is no way we are like one and done. It's innovate, 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 design changes, and try to make it better and keep going. And so we are using it absolutely as a test bed for deep space exploration.
So ISS has a limited lifetime, I understand 2024 at this point. What happens if they don't extend it? Are they designing the new iteration to fly it out and replace it?
The hope would be that we can kind of turn over to commercial entities and let them run up in space. I know Bigelow out in Las Vegas, they have inflatable HAB units kind of, and they're going to actually attach one of those to the outside of the space station next year. And so if that works out really well, it's a great design. Then who knows, maybe Bigelow could be operating a space station with SpaceX rockets going up and servicing it and running all these experiments for people, not just in the US, but all the way around the world. And you could just buy a package for like a 1-month research package and fly your hardware up there, and you as a scientist can go up and do your research and come back. And so that's where I think we would love to see it go. If there's a market to drive it, we'll wait and see. But I think that there could be if it's done well, and SpaceX has definitely proven that you can cut the costs considerably. All right, it's been a pleasure. Thanks everybody for your attention, and thanks for having me out here.